Today we're gonna be making fluffy Lilikoi bread. Lilikoi is also known as passionfruit. If you've never had Lilikoi before, it is a very tart fruit. So you would treat it kind of like you would lemons. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, ooh, this is gonna be a nice sweet bread. Actually, this is gonna be more of a savory tart bread. So think of this kind of like a sourdough, but it's actually more tart than a sourdough. So this could go really well with some savory dishes. So if you appreciate sourdough or other sour breads, then let's get started with the recipe. I don't have access to fresh passion fruit, but what I do have is this huge can of passion fruit puree that I found at our local homebrew store, out of all places. So let me know in the comments below if you guys have any other ideas that I can make out of this passion fruit puree, because I barely made a dent for this recipe. The ingredients and tools will be in the description below if you need them. So first, we're gonna start with flour, and I'm gonna dump it all in a stand mixer. You can also knead this by hand, but if you have a stand mixer, then why do all the extra work? Next, we're gonna add some milk powder, so this adds some more flavor and fluffiness to your bread. Next, we're gonna add instant yeast. Now, if you have active dry yeast, you can use that as well. Just Google to convert the amount that you need for this recipe. By the way, if you guys wanna go into a deeper dive on how to make soft, fluffy breads, check out my bread making course in the description below. We'll go into the nitty-gritty of everything you need to know to make really good bread at home. Next, we are gonna add some salt. And with salt, you wanna make sure that you add it on the other side of the bowl so that it doesn't hit the yeast, because apparently it's going to kill the yeast on contact. I haven't tried it and I don't really wanna find out. And now we're gonna add some sugar. So keep this in mind, passion fruit, like I said, is tart and very sour. So I would add a little bit more sugar than I would normally do in other breads that I make, just to balance out that tartness. If you wanna enhance the color in a natural way, you can add some turmeric powder. You're not gonna taste it, I promise, it's such a small amount, but if you want it to be a little bit more yellow, just to show that the passion fruit is in there, I'm just gonna add a little bit in here. So now you just wanna mix all the dry ingredients together before we mix in the wet ingredients. So here's my passion fruit puree. So we're just gonna add a little bit of the water for now. Go ahead and mix it up together, and then you can judge and see if you need more water. Okay, so there's still a little bit of flour at the bottom, so we're just gonna add like a little trickle of water. Okay, that should be good. And then I'm going to add 1 egg. The best part of doing this with the mixer is that you could just leave the mixer to figure it out and bring the dough together. By hand, this is still very doable, but if you're lazy like me, it's really nice to have a stand mixer do the work for you. Oopsies, I think I added a little too much water. So if this does happen to you, you can add just a little bit of flour. You don't wanna do too much, just a little bit will help bring your dough together. Okay, great, and when the dough starts to come together, you wanna let this knead for maybe just a couple minutes, and then we're gonna add the butter. Okay, now we can add the butter. Make sure it's at room temperature or melted, but not too hot so that it doesn't kill your yeast. Okay, and then you just keep letting this knead until it passes the window pane test, which means that it has enough gluten. So I'm gonna leave this and let this knead for about 8 to 15 minutes, but you have to check every few minutes to make sure that you don't over knead it. Okay, so it's been kneading for about 8 minutes. So this is how I check to see if it's done. Okay, so it's stretching out before breaking, and you can kind of see through it, so that's good enough. Okay, perfect. Now just scrape the bowl, and then we're gonna let this rise. You wanna make sure you cover this with an airtight lid So I have a lid that comes with my bowl, but you can also use plastic wrap. So we're just gonna let this sit here for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then we'll come back and punch it down. Ta-da! So it's been about an hour and the dough has definitely risen. Let's look at it. Oh, you can smell the passion fruit. Okay, so now we're gonna shape it. Okay, so since this dough is pretty sticky, I'm gonna add some flour on the board, and then I'm also gonna add some on top. Then you may wanna use a spatula to make sure you get all of the dough out onto the board. Wow. See what that little amount of turmeric does to the color of your dough? Okay, and so you wanna punch out all of the air bubbles in this dough before we start shaping it. And if the dough is super sticky, you can always use a bench scraper to help you get it off of the board. And then at this point, you can divide it between like 3 to 5 pieces, depending on how many of those mounds you want in your bread. So I think I'm just gonna go with 4. So now we're just gonna shape the bread. You wanna tuck it into itself so that it retains its shape as it expands. Okay, and I'm kind of scraping it against this board so that I can create a nice tight fold underneath the dough. It kind of looks like a little durian fruit. Oh, let's not forget, we have to grease the pan first before we put it in here, just so it doesn't stick. This is a non-stick pan, but it's always best to add some oil in it, just so you know for sure it's not gonna stick. And then I like to use a paper towel to really spread the oil throughout the pan. Now we can take our dough and just plop it in there. So cute. And now we're just gonna do the same for the rest of the dough. Can you see? Can you see that? Okay, great. Okay. Let's plop this in there. And I tell people this all the time, don't be afraid of sticky dough. It's just sticky dough. Scrape it off your hands or just add a little bit of flour and then use this bench scraper if you need it. Okay. This is what it looks like. Okay, now we have to let it rise a second time. So cover this with plastic wrap, or you can use a shower cap like I do. It's nice because you can reuse this at least a few times. And then we'll come back when it's ready to bake. Ooh, look, it's definitely like doubled or tripled in size. This is huge. So how you know your bread is ready is you poke it and it kind of bounces back halfway. So this one, I poke it and it still bounces back halfway. So if it doesn't bounce back at all, that means you've overproofed it. That means it's risen way too much and you should punch it down and reshape it. Okay, so the last thing we're gonna do before we bake it is I'm whisking together an egg yolk and about a teaspoon of water. And then we're gonna brush this on top of our loaves. Make sure you get all the little cracks. Okay, perfect. Now these are ready to go in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius for about 35 to 40 minutes. So let's pop it in there. Oh, check this out. So this baked beautifully. Oh, I can smell the passion fruit. Oh. Oh my gosh, it's so fluffy. So light and fluffy. Look at it, so nice and airy. Look, it's like a pillow. Ta-da! So here I have some Lilikoi jelly. This is made by Doug's mom. And then here I have some good high quality salted butter. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so good with it. Look at that, look at all the sections of the bread. Oh, it's so nice. Okay, so let's take this apart. The beauty of forming it into the rolls is that we can easily pull each section apart. So if you want to split this into 4 and split it with maybe your family or friends, this is the best way to do it. Oh my gosh, it's so nice and fluffy. Look how pillowy this is. It's so easy to squish. I love breads like this. Oh, it makes it so easy to eat too. Let's pull a little piece of bread. I love it when the bread kind of tears like this. Let's pull this apart, just see how fluffy it is. Whoa. So we really should be waiting for the bread to fully cool down before we start cutting into it or tearing it, but oh my gosh, how can you resist freshly baked bread? You wanna try this? Okay, so here's butter, and then here's the Lilikoi jam that your mom made.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hot. So just try the bread first. It's not sweet, it's more sour, this bread.
It smells like Lilikoi.
So here I'm putting some passion fruit jelly, or Lilikoi jelly that Doug's mom made.
I'm going with the butter.
It's nice to put the butter on really hot bread because it just melts so easily. So this bread is gonna be perfect with our flavorful smoked meats that we're gonna be eating tomorrow. If you do want me to make a sweeter version of a Lilikoi bread, let me know in the comments below. And also, give me some more ideas on what I could do with that Lilikoi puree because I have so much to get rid of. I hope this recipe helped encourage you make your own bread at home. It's so much healthier than store-bought bread. It has no preservatives and you can adjust the flavors to your liking. If you're interested in learning more about how to bake bread, check out the course that I have in the description below, or simply check out the bread baking cookbook. Okay, I'll let you go and I hope to see you back here again for more delicious food videos. Bye!